Ever since Bert had volunteered at Brendam Docks, Arry had noticed his brother seemed to be a bit softer than usual. Bert still did his work without fuss, but he no longer jeered at or mocked any of the engines. Whenever a dead train arrived, he would always insist on having a moment of silence for the scrap engines, whether they were steam or diesel. Arry couldn't understand it. To him, they were all scrap. There was nothing special about them. All that mattered now was cutting them up for good. Bert didn't bother explaining his reasoning. Trying to talk to Arry often felt like speaking to a set of buffers. One night, Bert was asked to deliver a train of scrap to Edward Station, leaving Arry all alone to handle the dead train. "Leave it to Bert to chicken out of the dead train," he muttered darkly. "It's only scrap after all, just part of the job." But when Arry saw what was waiting for him, he stopped in disbelief. There, on the dead train tracks, was a diesel shunter. He looked just like Arry. "Hello," said Arry. "You're in the wrong place. That's where we park our scrap." The diesel sighed mournfully. "It's no mistake, my dear brother," he murmured. "The other railway says I'm no good for work anymore. They say I'm only worth anything as scrap." "Nonsense!" scoffed Arry. "We diesels are the way of the future. You've got many years ahead of you." "You haven't been on the other railway recently, have you?" wheezed the diesel. "Diesels like us aren't useful anymore. They're being cut up by the hundreds. I was only sent here because the scrap yards back home are overflowing with my brothers and sisters." Arry was in disbelief. That's not true," he stammered. There's plenty of us here. We're still useful." The diesel sighed. "You're one of the lucky ones, dear brother, still being able to work without the fear of scrap hanging overhead. I'd like that, if even just for one more day. But I suppose it's time to accept the truth." Arry didn't know what to say. He was chilled to his frames. He quietly buffered up to the diesel and dutifully pushed him into the smelting shed. The diesel looked at him with sorrowful eyes, and for a moment, Arry thought he saw Bert staring back at him. Frightened, he shoved the diesel away and hurried back to his shed without a word. When Bert returned some time later, he found Arry wide awake in the shed. "What's got you up?" he asked. "Oh, nothing really," said Arry. "Just not really sleepy is all." He paused. "I'm glad you're back safe," he muttered a moment later. Bert was surprised, but said nothing when he noticed Arry had fallen asleep. Over the following days, more and more diesel shunters arrived aboard the dead train, and each time Arry was asked to prepare them for cutting. He began to feel a pit in his radiator, which only grew with each shunter that arrived. Arry soon felt so distraught that he stopped talking. He kept to himself and always seeming lost in his thoughts. Although Bert found it a relief to not be ridiculed by his brother for a fair while, he knew this wasn't like Arry at all. Bert began to worry. One night, Arry was once again asked to shunt away the dead train. He almost seemed reluctant as he rode away. Once again, Arry was greeted with the morose sight of a row of lifeless diesel shunters. "Better get this over with," he sighed, and begrudgingly pushed them into the smelting shed. No one really quite knows what happened next. As Arry was backing away, he thought he could hear a voice coming from the rows of diesels. "Brother, why don't you save us?" it said. We're still useful," slithered another. "How could you let this happen to us?" added a third. "How could you let this happen to me?" boomed all the voices at once. Arry looked back and saw a whole row of birds in front of him, all sadly wailing for his mercy. He raced out of the smelting shed and out of the smelter's yard as quickly as he could. A few hours passed, and Arry had not yet returned. Bert was deeply concerned and asked the manager if he could search for his brother. The manager agreed, and Bert set off into the night. Bert soon found Arry in a goods shed off the main line. "What's wrong?" he asked, noticing the pained expression on his brother's face. "Oh, it's nothing," stammered Arry. "Oh, so you decided to just race away from the smelter's yard for a few hours because of nothing?" scoffed Bert. "Come on now, Arry, what's the matter?" Arry sighed and told Bert everything. "I know scrapping's what makes me useful, but I can't just scrap family. Every time I see one of our siblings on that dead train, it feels like I'm about to scrap you." Bert was taken aback. The twins were both silent. Then Bert spoke up. "That first time we had the diesel come in for scrap, I felt the same way," he began. "It sat in my mind for a while. I thought working at the docks would help cheer me up. And you know what?" "What?" "It didn't," said Bert simply. "I learned that diesels aren't safe from scrap, not even the strongest or fastest ones. I was sad all day, but then I realized something." Arry looked hopefully at his twin. "Scrapping is what we do, but mourning doesn't make us any less useful. It's alright to feel sad about these things. We're losing family. That's something no engine should have to experience." Arry thought for a while about what Bert had said. He thought of all the steam engines he had mocked for being out of date, and what the first diesel had said about him being one of the lucky ones. But, you'll promise I'll never have to lose you?" Bert paused, surprised by his brother's display of vulnerability. "Of course," he smiled. Then, without another word, the twins headed back to the smelters. Arry is a different engine now. Although he still keeps a menacing presence about him, he no longer threatens engines with the fate of the cutter's torch. He is much more respectful of the engines who arrives on the dead train, and makes sure each of them is given a proper moment of silence before they are cut up. Sometimes, when he is alone, the words of the first diesel echoes in Arry's mind. He now realized that for all of the harsh truths he has faced, he can take solace in knowing that he is, and will remain, one of the lucky ones.